Hey everyone, this is an Excel lesson from me, Ken and Ken's Talk, doing a lesson about pivot tables and keeping track of mailing lists. A lot of times you want to send out information, sending out mails or emails or regular traditional snail mail, and you want to track responses and you want to see, where did you send things, when people responded to me, did it end up culminating in any business? What type of business? What happened? Well, this is a tool that we can use to develop that and use pivot tables to track all this. It's really pretty easy. So what we have here is we have an Excel sheet, and I've pre-populated some information. Let me kind of talk about what we've done here. Basically, you've got, this is for a person who potentially wants to send out information and gather information about real estate, maybe make some offers, real estate purchases, homes like that. So the first thing you'd say in column A is the date that you have sent this mailing, and I put a standard date of, I guess the 21st and the 19th of September as a date that we're sending out all this information. Then you have a response date when you actually do receive a response from the person you mailed it to. Let's throw in some sample dates. Let's say on the 26th we hear from Bob A, and 29th maybe we hear from this person Brian, and I don't know, 30th we hear from John. And you can see what happens is in this column C, where it's response lag days, that's a little formula I wrote in here that just says, if we entered in a date and there was a response, then calculate the number of days that it took for us to get the response. This will come into play when we set up the pivot table later. So, and also another thing that happens once we enter in a response date is this over here, this response type goes into yellow. And the sample that I'm preparing is somebody who requested that I give them a quote for some information. And they just wanted to know, based on these potential options, response options, one is they get a response, they get an offer on a house maybe, they get a contract on a house, they close on a house, they make some money. There are potential different options that they can show here. They're in this little matrix, in this range, which I called RES. And that just means that I set up a validation here, and you can click here under when you do a data validation. You can create these options. You can say, all right, well, this was an offer. This response was just a flat-out response and hasn't led to anything yet. This one ended up being income, or was a closing. Whatever you want it to do, you could then label it here, and it goes from yellow to white, so that it knows that you filled in information. Here's a person's name, and then an address, and this is just the street address, and you can set up another column for a secondary street address if you need it, or you can just put the full address with the apartment number or unit number in there. City, state, zip code, those are just the things I put in here right now. You can do a ton more, but that's what we have for right now. So you've got all this data, and now you want to make it, you want to be able to browse it in a user-friendly manner and start crunching some numbers and figure out exactly where your responses came from. Any analytical work you need to do, we need to set up a pivot table. So let's highlight this entire area from A to I, and that's highlighting it, all those columns all the way down into infinity, or 1,000,000+ rows that they have in the Excel sheet. Go to Insert, Pivot Table, and we're just going to create a pivot table in a brand new sheet. So we just set up OK. And so now we're going to start to develop a pivot table, and pivot tables are great because you can mix and really look for anything that you want to. If you can visualize what it is you want to see in your head, you can make the pivot table represent that. So let's first see, let's say date sent. I'm going to grab the date sent column, which is the column A, and I'm going to bring it down to this bottom right quadrant called values. And that's going to count the number of date cents that there were, which is really 15. Let's look at this by, let's start looking at this by city. And I'm going to put city here in the row labels, and you'll see what starts to happen is you start to see all the cities and how many I mailed to each city. You could then take address below that and grab address, put it below city, and all of a sudden it's going to open up and you're going to see each address that you sent to within each city, and when you sent it. And you can maximize and minimize these by hitting a little plus minus there. Now we also want to look at responses, so I'm going to grab response date and I'm going to put that over here, and this is automatically going to count out the number of responses. So you can see that we got 2 responses in Burke and 1 response in Fairfax. Now as we start to dig down more, response type becomes a very important column. And response type, I'm going to throw that at the very top of row labels here above city, and that's going to show all the ones that we closed on, which cities we closed on, which ones were offers, which ones were just flat out responses, and then all the blanks, which is, there's basically 12 out there that you've not received a response yet. To make this more visually appealing also, you can start to do some design elements. You really don't want to see subtotals in this, so that's going to make it a little better. And I guess grand totals to the so you can do grand totals for columns and rows. At the bottom here, this is kind of okay to see totals of responses and dates sent. And really just goes from here. You can look at anything. You can also incorporate slicers, which are really fun, because within your slicers, you just go to insert slicer. You want to look at something like zip code, or perhaps, I think, state. I mean, these are all going to be Virginia because that's what I used. But your response type is going to be another nice one that you want to slice by. And then you're going to get these little bubbles that pop up, and you can just browse your whole table, because we're looking at a table with just 20 or 30 records. When this has thousands of records, this becomes very important and really helpful when messing around and looking at what you want to find. So say, all right, well, I want to see all the closes, or all just the responses that I need to deal with, and this is the response, and this is the address. And if you wanted to see the entire record of data, you can actually double click on it right here, and it's going to pop up in a new sheet, so you can get all the information if you don't want to add more to the table. And then anytime you make an adjustment within your table data, say you got another set of responses in today, okay, today 9/21 I ended up getting a response from Mary, and 9/21 I got a response from Bob, and these were just flat out responses and they need further work from me. Then you click that, and then you just go back to your pivot table here. You right click anywhere inside your pivot table, you press refresh, and everything updates automatically. As I clear this filter here and show different areas, these are all the ones in this zip code, these are the ones in this zip code. You can hold down control and look at multiple areas. I want to see closes and I want to see offers, so I held down control and it showed me both of those. And of course you can expand and put names in there, really do anything you want. And so that's just the basics of setting up a sheet. And the crux of it is all the information that you want in this row and column format. Just you need a title at the top in the first row, and make all your records kind of look like this and be streamlined. Say you wanted to add something like these are our homes or something. How about home price, for example? Well, that's interesting. Let's just create a new column right in the middle here, and maybe certain homes have a home price attached to them, or a closing price or an offer price. So as soon as you get an offer, you say, all right, well, this is a $225,000 home, and we would like to format that as a number. We would not like to format that as a date, so I'm making that a number. That's a $225,000 home. This is a $175,000 home. This is a $325,000 home. This is a $315,000 home. This is a $300,000 home. Now that you've created this column for home price, you can go back here and you can refresh, and as soon as you refresh this, the home price is going to appear up in here. It's going to be a brand new column. It just showed up wherever it's column B, so it's right there. So now you want to do something with home price. Well, you can take home price and put it over here, and let's call that you can make it an average or a sum. Average is an interesting one to use in this scenario. So we just made that an average home price, and that shows up over here. And you can see, once I unfilter all this, you start to see all the home prices in different areas and what the average is. And when I closed on a $325,000 home right there, offered $225,000 response. I'm going to remove something here to make this a little easier to look at for what we're doing. So in this scenario, change the number format for you as well. Counting. You've now got average home prices for these areas. Well, what's kind of cool is I want to see an average home price for responses in this zip code, and then I get them. And these are the two of them, and you know, see, 245 is the average, but it's 175 in a $315,000 house. You can really start to do mathematical equations, and there's another thing called calculated fields, which I'll get into later, where you can write a formula related to the pivot table inside the pivot table without doing it on the sheet. Situations are really endless. So that is the breakdown. That's if you want any more information or you want a copy of this sheet or have any questions for me, just let me know in the comments and I'll send it out to you. That is Ken's Talk, and enjoy using Microsoft Excel to solve all your problems. That's what I do, and it's a good time. So Ken's Talk out.